Calgarian, welcome to the West. We weren't supposed to make it, but we made it, yeah. Welcome to the West. Safe to say it's my favorite, yeah. Welcome to the West. Trying to get paid quick and stay rich, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah. Welcome to the West. We weren't supposed to make it, but we made it, yeah.
Alright everybody, welcome to episode number 8 here at After Hours YYC, hosted at SS106 Aperitivo Bar. We have Dan and Nigel tonight. We're a little short-handed. We had a couple guests that we thought we were going to bring on, but things changed. But it's okay, we're here for you guys. We're here every week. We try our best to be here, and we're drinking. Of course, we got to drink because we're in a bar. So we have Puro Pan Suave, which is from Veneto region, really good white.
Are you sure there's no other reasons we drink though? Like,
there's a lot of reasons why we drink right now. And then we have Grappa, which is Poli Bassano from northern Italy, Bassano region. I think you should sip, but some people like to chug Grappa. And then later on, we got a red from Calabria, Belfresco. It's a red, but we can chill it, and it's from our region of Italy. All right, so we're gonna talk about some things today on episode 8. We got yesterday was May 11th, I believe, right? Or May 10th? Whatever, May 11th, 10th, Jason Kenney had a speech, so we'll talk about that. There's also an article out about far right and anti-lockdowns. So, you know, I don't believe in anti-lockdown, I believe in pro-business, so that's the way I see it. But they're comparing everyone that pretty much is wanting to open their business as far right, racist, white supremacists. We're also going to talk about Bill C-19. It's about voter laws and mail-in ballots. They want to talk about that in Canada. We thought it was never going to come here, but there's an article on that as well. And then Bill C-10, we're going to get more into that on censorship. And then lately, in the last couple of days, there's been a lot of talk about pipelines, gentlemen. We'll get into that too, about how there's a cyber attack. Nobody has fuel in Florida. They're saying it's like Venezuela. They can't get fuel. It's like pretty crazy stuff. And then about Line 5, if the cancellation of Line 5 will affect Ontario and Quebec in a big way. And maybe pipelines are good. That's all we're saying here, right? So how was your guys' week? Day 3 of the lockdown, right?
Yeah, officially. I think most places, a lot of the places I go, were closed on Saturday and Sunday because the weather was so fantastic.
Yes, of course.
That everybody's social media was, we're closed, we're not opening. Everybody's trying to do takeout, but yeah, no. So it's really day 5.
Yes, correct. So maybe that's why the cases are down, right? Or
maybe.
One day after, right? Cases start dropping, huh?
They'll be all over the place for a while then.
So how was everything good, Nigel?
yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm privileged enough to work from my dining room table, so I can't complain. But I mean, the melancholy set in. The weather was pretty bad Saturday, so I didn't get to go out for that last round.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes good to see people, right? It
is.
Mental health.
I think even the last month has been probably like it's starting to get on everybody's nerves. Like I know for me, it's like, you know, you wake up and you lay in bed for an hour kind of thing because you don't like it's dragging on and it's
Yes.
They call it languishing.
yes.
What is it, week number 60 something? I don't even know right now, the 2-week lockdown.
We're 14, 15.
My son turned 1 year old. That was exciting, but it's too bad we couldn't have a huge party.
I did see that, yeah.
We couldn't even have a baby shower last year. Now is his baptism next week. We can do that because it's not a funeral, so I guess we can have
You can have more people.
more people in the church, I guess.
Or have it indoors. Yeah.
Whatever, man. Great rules. So last week we talked so much, and it's like maybe Jason Kenney is actually watching our podcast because everything we talk about, like look, we talked about marketing and he talked about marketing. We talked about pipelines, and now look, maybe we're actually smarter than we think we are. You know, like maybe we got some knowledge. I don't know. These discussions have been good, and
Manage the expectations, man.
it's just like we were talking about marketing and how stop the spike, lives and livelihoods, do the right thing, we are in this together. Jason Kenney, the first thing he said on his speech was he admitted the government will be spending $5 million so you get a vaccination. You get a vaccine, which I think most Albertans know right now they need to get a vaccine if they want freedoms because that's where they're pinning us. But
Well, they know because Don Draper told us to, right? Like, I mean,
so like, do we really need marketing? But it's funny how we talked about how the marketing is changing and somebody... Yeah, so anyways, I'm going to talk a little bit about his speech and then we'll get into it. So Jason, there's actually a chart, so I'll try to post this when I show it. But Jason Kenney said we would reduce restrictions at 48% with one dose. We will be at these numbers by the end of May. That's the path to recovery, and it was posted on April 12th. He changed his tone again when asked by Rick Bell if restaurants would likely be open in 3 weeks after the 3-week lockdown, and he said unlikely they will be open. So it's just like he keeps changing, and I have the thing here, path to recovery. I'll try to share it with you guys because I made sure I saved it because we don't know if it's going to get deleted. 4 weeks ago, Jason Kenney also said that Texas opened due to vaccination. We are actually higher today with first doses than when Texas actually opened. We are at 37 plus or minus % of vaccination, and Texas was at 14% with one dose when they opened and 8% with 2 doses. So before we talked about 32%, but I bet you it was 32% of doses per 100,000 or whatever, right? 30. Do you know what I mean? When they do, if you add all the doses, it's like 32%.
Yeah.
So it's crazy stuff, but he said it was because of vaccination. But now, what did Jason Kenney? He changed his tone again, and he called it about herd immunity. He said that 30% of Texans, a lot of people did die. 30% of them have had the virus, and he said 12. Even though we're lower than 12%, he's saying we're assuming that about 12% because some people don't get tested when they get the virus. So if you do it, he said they believe they have 30% population had the antibodies when Texas opened up. 30% of antibodies plus the 13 of the one dose and the 8% of the 2 doses is about 50+% of immunity with one dose. That's where Alberta is going to be in 3 weeks. So, and that's what the path of recovery says. So it's just like.
So now here's a quick question.
I'm just wondering why are the goalposts moving all the time? Like maybe it's because of hospitalization now, but as a restaurant owner or anything, or even just mental health, or as an athlete, as a human. How many times, like a 12-year-old, like we said last week, can go look at this up and be like, why are you changing the goalposts? I want to go to soccer practice. I want to hang out with my friend. I want to play basketball or go skiing. You can't go skiing this time of year, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, you still can. Sunshine's still open.
Thank you. See?
So now the question is, how did they? So they figured that you said Texas was that they believe 30% had the virus.
Had the virus, or maybe passed away, I guess, because he said that's immunity. 30% had immunity without vaccination.
I don't think
you
care too much about immunity if you're dead. But
I don't know.
I'm thinking you're thinking people that are.
I don't know what they count as numbers anymore because all this shit's really confusing me.
But I would think that I don't know. I'd be curious to know where they get that, like how they determine 30%.
Well, how did they determine 12%?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Right? But he said that it might
3 times, maybe.
It might be more than that because people are hesitant to get tested. Well, I can guarantee you, Texans are just as hesitant to get tested.
Well, no. When he said 30%, I'm assuming because some people don't get tested, and he said 12%. Because if you look at our numbers of the people that had the virus, like I never got tested positive when I knew I had the virus. I stayed home. I followed the rules. Sure. I don't know what's the difference if I get tested or not. Because I'd have to stay home for the time I was sick for the 10 days to 14 days. And then when I went to Mexico, that's when I tested positive because I needed a test to come back. And AHS says you can test positive up to 90 days. And I think it's not just AHS. I think it's worldwide you can test positive later on, right? And my wife tested positive for another month and a half, right? So I don't know. Is that where they're getting that number? I don't know. What do you guys think?
So,
the serology test.
The serology test.
Yeah.
And if herd immunity is a really important factor into opening everything up and returning to normal, then vaccination is one side of the equation, right? But everybody who's already had the virus is the other side of it, right? And hence the importance of testing for antibodies.
Well, there was a report. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but there seems to be zero interest in doing so. No, and that's the kind of stuff that I find really confusing. I mean, it should be just as important knowing how many people have already had the virus as it is to give the vaccine.
Well, I looked up just before we did this, and I found a place you can get a serology test, and it's about $10 more than a PCR test from the same company. So it shouldn't be a cost factor. There was a study out earlier today, and I don't know where, I believe it was out of the UK, but they were talking about people who have had the virus, who get the vaccine, are more resistant to variants, they think. But they clearly must be testing people.
What I think is, if we need to have that one dose or the second dose, or we need to get immunity, why are we giving people the vaccine that tested positive for the virus? If we care about opening the economy, if we care about lives and livelihood, if we want to stop the spike, why are we giving? I know people that had the virus a month ago and they're getting their vaccine.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't make sense because some people say, the antibodies last longer. Some people say they only last 3 months. So if you have antibodies, why are you, even as a human being, if you actually say that I'm getting the vaccine for all of us, and I'm trying to do this because we're all in this together, if you just had the virus a month ago, why are you getting the vaccine? I'm sorry. You have the if you believe in science and we're supposed to follow the science, I thought the antibodies mattered.
To support those people, I think it's because the messaging is very, very unclear. In fact, I think antibodies is the one aspect of COVID they talk about the absolute least. Like you guys were saying, how do we come up with the numbers? How do we know what the herd immunity was in Texas, or how do we estimate 12% in Alberta?
But they never talked about that before.
No, but those numbers,
right?
but they don't really publish it. It's never,
Yep.
you can see who's been vaccinated, you can see how many people have COVID, how many recovered, how many have died, unfortunately. But all those numbers have always been identified. But there's no number talking about.
And the other funny thing is that you just said you can see how many people have had it. No, you can see how many people who've had it who've been tested.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because if we did have these serology tests, you would know that maybe there's another 100,000 or 500,000 people that have already had it. And then where does that put your number? Then that immune number jumps up. Say there was 500,000, just to make the math easier. You're up another 13%. Right?
You would think the serology test was as accessible as the COVID test itself. Like just as simple. Like drive up in your car and whatever, take the swab, and then they'll give you the result because it's an important number, not just so you know for yourself, but so they have a reference. Exactly, they have a reference of what's going on in the population.
And now that we talk about like this path of recovery that he said of 48% immunity, it's kind of funny that the UK opened with 40% with one dose. And it's 48% is the number. 48%, 40, like it's on his path to recovery. April 12th, 2021. I don't know if you can still find it on the government website. And even Israel, when they're at about 50% with one dose, and some people had 2 doses, they started opening up. But another thing is, Jason Kenney, when you said there were 73,126 fans at a boxing match in Florida, it was actually in Texas, and Canelo won the fight, so my wife was very happy. So next time you say something, at least get those facts straight. They were in Dallas Stadium, 71 or 73,000? The third largest event for a boxing match. The third biggest attendance for a boxing.
The facts, you keep saying, like the goalposts keep changing, or this number is what's important this week, this number is what's important next week, this number is what's important next week. You start getting that crazy conspiracy guy feeling that the posts are going to keep changing, the line's going to keep moving, and so that we can.
On that note, can I go?
Yeah.
So on that note, like the Maldives, right?
Yeah, you were saying
you want to talk about changing goalposts? The Maldives have 37% of their population that has 2 doses and 60% with 1 dose.
And they're a small. What's the population? It must be small.
400,000, less, like half a million or less, something like that. Small. They just went into full lockdown again today, with that much of their population vaccinated. And so, if that's any indicator of where we're headed, you can kind of see. And I think that's what's kind of scaring me. Like, can we close the economy indefinitely?
No.
Right?
No.
Because as the virus changes again,
I know.
It's a very sticky place to talk about. Like, if Alberta had equivalent deaths to Texas, there would have been roughly 8,000 people dying instead of roughly the 1,500 people that have died, 2,000, right? And so, 6,000 people is 6,000 people. It's hard to account for. But at the same time, are we into a completely new world order where the economy has no relevance and
that's what's happening in
Big
Australia.
Brother can take care of us? Because
that's what's happening in Australia.
How is the future going to bode?
Australia, everyone's like, oh, they did the right thing. They were the hardest lockdowns. And now, every time they have cases, they're like locking down. I think it was Sydney lockdown. I think it was Sydney. Before I say, there was parts of Australia that added restrictions again. Because their vaccination, if vaccination works, is really low. So it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, it's scary. That's all I'm saying is,
But even vaccination is not working anymore. Like the place where
the
Seychelles was the most vaccinated in the world, one of the most, right?
16 months. We're 15 to 16 months, man. No sports, no kids' sport, no restaurant. Like, some people actually follow the rules and have not seen their fucking family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so sad, man. And I have a customer that comes in here, nicest lady, and her mom has dementia. So then I think she's allowed to see her now, but there was one point where she wasn't allowed to see her mom in the home. And that was the time when she hit rock bottom, because and then she went back and she's like, my mom was already losing it with dementia. Like, dementia is disgusting. It's the most horrible disease. I hope nobody gets it. But in that time is where her mom went really, really downhill. And Like, I talked to her today. It's sad. Like, and if we look at even the numbers, like, I don't think anyone, like, when it comes to death, I am very sensitive. Like, I cry all the time. Like, I don't want anyone. But if you look at the hard numbers, about 49 point something percent, I have, you can go on the Alberta website, have dementia. Like, dementia is not a good, I hope nobody ever gets dementia. It's disgusting. But if you think about that, that's like 1 out of 2 people that are dying of COVID have dementia. And it's, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm an animal. Do I sound like an animal? But it's I don't know. Like, I'm worried. I feel bad for those old people so much. But I also feel bad for the kids. I don't feel like I talk like I feel bad for me. But really, it's not about me. I believe it's about the kids. It's about the older people. It's about, if we destroy this economy, what's our future?
But the economy is only a piece, like you're saying. It's really about society and all its parts.
Mental health and everything.
Every aspect of society is taking some heavy shots these days, right?
Well, you look, I saw my dad in person last time, Christmas Eve. My niece and nephews, same thing.
So when you seen your dad, was it kind of illegal?
He dropped he dropped a Christmas card off at my front door. He didn't come in.
Poor man.
And he left. And he lives by himself. And, you know, he's...
Man, we're only on this life one time. Like, we're only on this world one time. I don't know if you believe in.
These years we don't get back.
We
like,
don't. And if you're 18,
time is never promised to us. Like, there's no guarantee that anyone's gonna live for any amount of time. Period. COVID or no COVID,
like,
there's no guarantees.
Even this podcast keeps me going.
Sure.
Like, I'm lucky I get to see people on a daily basis because I own a restaurant. Even when they come pick up takeout, it keeps my mental health like a little like good. Like, I think I'm crazy because I am Italian and everyone knows I'm crazy. But like, seeing even just this podcast, like, it's good to discuss, and we're going to talk about this other stuff about censorship, and this shit's getting scary, man. I'm telling you, people, like, just open your mind a little bit. I'm not saying we're doctors, or in these times, I think you need to call your friends, you need to call your family. If you're not seeing them, please check on them, man. Like, people, like, I see people, and my mental health personally is getting shot.
Oh, yeah.
So please, man, like, just, you don't want nothing to happen to people you know in your life, man. That's all I'm saying, is just try your best, and like, let's when you say we're in this together, let's actually care about people, and let's take care about people, and let's be human beings, because the government doesn't trust us to be human.
Yeah, check on your friends.
So just check.
Well,
man.
check your mental health, like as the old people say. Don't jump from the pot to the fire, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, in our
It's been depressing. It has.
it's really rough, yeah.
Yeah. So but I think it is important. Check on your friends. Like, well, there was some friends of mine own a restaurant here, and one of their chefs killed himself.
Young guy, 24, right?
He was young. Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
Well, to me, anything under 100 is young. You know what I mean? Like,
Thanks, man.
You want to talk about a moving goalpost?
yeah, you know
Get
what?
older.
This is funny. My great grandma, so my mom's grandma, lived to 100 years old in Italy. She had a glass of red wine every day, so we got some red wine in. And she had some hot peppers every day. She lived to 100. It's kind of amazing. And maybe because she ate organic. So Italian food's not bad for you. If you eat Italian food, you live to 100. Okay.
I think there's 3 things there. So I got a grandma right now in the city that's 99.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, amazing.
And she, the 3 aspects to her were her diet's amazing. I mean, everything I've consumed that's poison, I've consumed more of her than she has in 99 years.
Yes,
everything.
My grandma never drank. Well,
Her
no,
diet-
I had that one.
So her diet's incredible. Her activity level was pretty hardcore. I mean, she caught the bus into her 80s and she flew into her 90s. I think 97
And
98.
she's in Grenada.
No, she's here. She's here. She's from Grenada. The last time she went to Grenada was like 2 years ago. Like she's.
Oh, so she's still.
and
Oh,
she-
that's
you know,
amazing.
she was in Costa Rica. She was getting around in her
So
late
do you
90s.
see her now with everything going on?
Well, not now.
Yeah,
It keeps
yeah.
doubling down, right? So.
But she's in. Where is she? Is she in a home? Or?
No. She's with my relatives. Yeah,
Okay,
they take
good,
really
good.
good care of her.
Awesome.
Actually, they take fantastic care of her.
Family's important, man. But friends are important to everyone.
And then exactly the social aspects of it. Like she's living with one of my cousins who has 2 little kids, and I'm sure these little kids have extended her life. Like
Yes. Could you
hands
imagine if
down.
she didn't see them?
exactly.
Right?
So
Like,
even
that's-
now, like
That's not good, man.
she's got some pretty committed like uncles and aunts of mine that visit her regularly, like every week without fail, like clockwork.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's impacted now with the COVID. But her great grandchildren are always there. You know what I mean?
And they're probably like, they have a lot of energy, because I have a
They're
son.
little
I know,
kids, yeah.
They have
there's-
energy, so it keeps that old,
And
keeps her going. Right?
an
Brings her
8-year-old,
joy,
an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, right? Like that's
And
that
she's
vibrant
like
age.
99.
She's 99. She turned 99 in February.
This is your mom's side or your dad's side?
My dad's side. My dad's one.
Oh, wow. Could you imagine 99? That means we would have like, Dan, you got a little less years than me, but
I'm gonna have to slow down a
jeez,
little bit.
like that's a long time.
1922. I think about her life, like
Before she was born, before my grandparents,
1922.
26.
So she's like, it's fully relevant. Like, she's seen
She's
it all.
seen it all, man.
The great, you know, she was in the Caribbean at that time, but still, the Great Depression happened, World War II happened, all the Cold War era happened. Like all of this stuff went on. Her kids were being born in the 40s, right? My oldest aunt is in her 80s. You know.
Yeah. So I'm we always talk about, last week we talked about how I hate the word anti. You said Zia, you know, in Spanish it's Zia. But you know, we hate the word anti, and it's like, it's always anti-lockdown, anti-mask and all this stuff. And there's this article, and I somebody sent it to me. I think it was Christian actually that sent it to me, and this is sometimes how I feel. Now it's in an article. It's how like I don't want to consider myself anti-lockdown. I want to consider myself pro-business and pro-mental health and like pro-life and pro-sport.
You're a positive guy.
I tried. Well, as an Italian, I try to be as positive as I can. But you know, like, so there's this Globe and this is a Globe and Mail. It says pandemic of hate. Leaders, experts warn anti-lockdown protests linked to far right. Okay, sure. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh listens to a question as he speaks with reporters on Parliament Hill, Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 in Ottawa. Singh says he believes there's a connection between the anti-mask and anti-lockdown protests and far-right extremism. The executive director of the Canadian AntiHate Network said, since last year, people opposing hateful beliefs have linked themselves to conspiracy, remember that, and anti-lockdown movements around the novel coronavirus. We have two pandemics, he said. We have the actual pandemic, and then we have the pandemic of hate. The racist right. So remember, if you're a capitalist and you believe not necessarily that you're like that far right where they call it fascism, but say you're right wing when it comes to business and low taxes and
fiscally conservative,
just because that, I guess that's right wing, right? So the racist right. So you know, we consider ourselves all fiscally conservative, maybe, and we're very liberal when it comes to social aspects. But like in the end of the day, I'm not going to talk for you guys, but in the end of the day, when there's more money in the government, more money in the economy, more money in my pocket, in the end, I'm not saying I have to be a millionaire, but it's better for all of us. There's better social programs, which comes back. But the racist right that we monitor and COVID conspiracy movement is inseparable from each other at this point. We monitor them as if they are the same thing because they involve all the same people. Mr. Bellegarde. So this is a guy from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is a non-for-profit organization. Yeah. So none of them make money, right?
Oh, they make money.
So this is all comes down to political correctness. Are they deciding what is politically correct because they're the Canadian Anti-Hate? And who funds them and how? And I was trying to look. I tried hard to find out who funds them. You can donate. And how much are they getting paid? Without finding hate and racism, wouldn't they be out of work? This is my theory. Like, not my theory. It's just, and there's more stuff here. But it's pretty crazy though how right away if you're like pro-business or you want to open your business to save your livelihood, and you know maybe you've had the virus, and all your friends have had the virus, and you realize like you're not saying the virus doesn't exist, but they survived and everyone's okay, and you're like, but I see more mental health and I see more people suffering, so I believe I should open my business. I should have the right to open my business. Now you're a white supremacist or extreme right, whatever they call it. Like, to me, it's a little like, I'm not saying I'm offended, but you can't. It all ties in with all these other bills about censorship, and are they going to control our podcast? And
yeah, I don't think there's anything to be offended by. I think what it is, we always talk about marketing, and we talk about like there's smear campaigns. Look at oil and gas. There's a really big movement that's smearing oil and gas, saying we're destroying the environment. All of this. Nobody looks at the real. So look at the documentary that we learned from a week or two ago. If we look at this and we go back, remember, it's not okay for people to have a different opinion. I've had lots of discussions with people that I consider to be pretty sane and ordinary people that are on complete opposite sides of this than me, or even marginally different sides, but different things. I don't think that, and I don't peg any of us as crazy extremists at all.
I don't think so either.
But I think that we don't believe what this group is selling you, not necessarily as Canadian anti-hate, but the the ones that are up talking about, like, it's their way or the highway kind of thing. Like, we have to do this, we have to do it this way. And they always say based on the facts, based on the science, but it's based on the facts that they tell you. There's two sides to every story, and we've talked a million times about statistics and how you can take statistics and tell the same story a few different ways with the same numbers. Who's to say, like, there was one on the radio I heard maybe last week, and this guy had called in and he was talking about, what about the possible long-term effects of this vaccine? And I'll start by saying, I believe the vaccine works. I think it's a good thing. I don't think we're getting microchips put in us or anything like that. But this guy goes, what about the possible long-term effects? What if my kids become sterile? And the guy shuts him down right away and he goes, clearly you're not following the science. They've done tests. They've done this. And I thought, well, how have you done tests on the long-term effects of something that's only been in existence for 6 or 8 months? Like, so now, how does that stance make sense? How can we know the long-term effects of this 6 months in or 8 months in? Like, do you remember, you're probably not old enough, there was a drug a long time ago that came to market really fast that helped with morning sickness called thalidomide.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, thalidomide. You see a lot of people who have birth defects, like where their limbs are, like they'll have a hand here kind of thing, that sort of thing. A lot of that was caused by thalidomide.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I didn't know.
But it was a drug that came.
Sounds like formaldehyde. That.
No. But it was a wonder drug because it took care of morning sickness and stuff like that. And I don't know the timeline that they tested. I don't know any of that.
You said morning sickness, and I heard morning after, but
different medication. But there's a long-term effect of it that was missed. So, I don't think there is going to be a problem with the vaccine. I think that people who take it are going to be just fine. I don't think they're going to grow an eyeball. I don't think they're going to have any other health issues than anybody else. But by the same token, like, I don't take the flu vaccine every year. I'm not a big believer in taking things.
So if you ask a question but the funny thing is, so we talked about this earlier actually, is how they say if you're anti-mask, anti-vax, you're all like right.
No.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of those fucking super lefties that are like all about like natural path, and they're not all right. They're super left.
We've talked about it in the past, and it's like this idea of like always having to put people under these labels, right?
Yeah.
It's all these points of separation. How many points of separation can we find? And the combination of those two values, like the fact that they're saying anybody who's against the lockdown, which I like your take, like forget anti-lockdown, it's pro-business. I mean, right? So anyone who's pro-business automatically falls into the racist category. That's a really interesting spin they're putting on it, right? Because they're automatically trying to discredit that context, that viewpoint, right? Because there's some pretty strong opinions, and like it's not just pro-business, it's pro-society, pro-education, pro-socializing, like it's a lot of pros there, right?
Youth,
like, yeah, pro-activity, community, like it's a lot of pros. And to automatically just kind of like fully discredit that and say, no, like you guys are in the batch of like the Proud Boys and all the racists over here. I think there's two separate issues going on, right? Because there is some racist stuff happening.
Sure there is.
Yes,
and
100%.
But interestingly, and this is the part where cause and effect, people, we have to pay attention how this stuff goes together. When people are impoverished, when your livelihood's threatened, when your standard of living is diminished, that's when the gang mentalities increase, right? That's where it starts to happen, and that's what you have in these organized like alt-right groups. Like they're gangs, right?
Sure.
And the membership will increase as people see hardship. When the land is full of plenty, when it's full of flowing of milk and honey, everybody's happy. Like
you feel
they're
like
quite content.
we're not sticking up for them, but they're pushed to that point where.
Well, yeah, it's not even sticking up, but that's typically what happens. Like the majority of people who play on that side of the fence, like straight racists, like running Confederate flags. It's funny. I was riding my bike today, and I saw this pickup with a Confederate flag, and it was a rust bucket like no tomorrow, right? It wasn't a brand new shiny Chevy. So there's something to that, you know.
Yeah.
And the people driving it looked kind of miserable, you know. Like, I mean, I guess that's just my 2 cents. I'm biased, but they weren't like sparkling happy people behind the wheel of this vehicle flying the Confederate flag. You know,
we look at those quotes though that were just there about how basically that article said that if you don't agree with their stance on lockdowns, vaccinations, masks, whatever, pick your thing, you're a white supremacist racist.
Which is
pretty much
which for white people is like the scum of the earth, right? Like nobody wants to be labeled a racist, even if in your heart you know you have prejudices against visible minorities,
Yep.
the last thing you want is to be publicly identified as a
Agreed.
racist, right? It's
Yeah.
like a pariah. That's the worst thing you can be called. You'd rather be called poor than racist, right? Like,
Yes.
not you specifically, sorry. I was singling you out, Dan.
No, I get it. No, but I think what that's doing, though, you were saying how some people are being pushed into that. That statements like that drive a wedge, and if what the expectation would be is if those people don't all of a sudden start believing in lockdowns and agreeing with this other side, I think you're right. I think they are being pushed towards the other camp. I don't think they're going to start, putting Confederate flags up, carrying tiki torches, and being that person. But I think they either. I wonder if they're just being shouted down to be scared.
Well, just the equation, like the equating of it, right? Because it's like, it's kind of just grinding at people. So if you're, in my mind, if you're an independent thinker, right, and you're just trying to pay attention to all the facts, you try to understand all the rhetoric and try to make decisions, like, you're not against society, you're not against people's grandparents or society as a whole. You're just trying to understand everything they're saying. Like, the goalposts keep changing. I mean, as a logical person, we get it. The virus is brand new. There's not a lot of information, so the science is updating in real time. I mean, this is the story. This is the narrative they give us, right? Mm-hmm. But we're playing catch up, so we're trying to understand that. But to question
Bingo.
automatically puts you in this category. I mean, we had this conversation in an early podcast, but it's a very slippery slope when you're not even allowed to have a dissenting voice. Like,
So Singh said he believes there's a connection between anti-mask and anti-lockdown protests and far-right extremism. So actually, the Bloc Québécois leader, François Blachette, played down the idea of the connection between the protests and far-right extremism, saying arguments suggesting a correlation were politically motivated. Now this is crazy. This is more Calgary. Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi earlier called such demonstration thinly veiled white nationalist, supremacist, anti-government protests on Global's The West Block. So it's just like, it's just a little more deeper, but it's just crazy how, I don't know if these guys are just playing politics or if they actually believe this.
well, I mean, it gets really sticky. Like, if guys are showing up at anti-mask demonstrations and they're rolling with tiki torches,
Yeah.
there's not much to say there.
Yeah,
It's quite apparent what they're up to.
But
you know?
those jackasses are going to show up at a
Yeah.
pool opening or something.
Well,
too.
and so I feel like
Are they put there? I
they're
don't
two
know. I'm not
separate
saying-
issues. They're conflating these topics, right?
Yeah.
Like, racism and then organized race, whatever you call it, racist. That's a problem, right? But citizens who are concerned and want to voice their concerns about the way the government's operating, that's a whole different story. And you shouldn't conflate the two. There's a hard line separating the two, right? And so if you have a racist who happens to be an anti-masker, sure, but that does by no means make an anti-masker racist.
I went to high school with this guy. I'm not gonna say names, but he came here. He bought a gift card the other day. He wanted me to provide. He actually asked me to talk at one of these freedom rallies, and I'm working. I actually don't, but in the end, it's like a tough fine line between, do I speak out? And I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's where you get labeled like this. So this guy is mulatto. He's half black, half white. He is like total anti-vax, but he's also about like growing his own vegetables and eating organic, and he's a vegan. I don't think he's all right.
he walks the walk. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he's actually on the other side of the spectrum. So what I'm saying is people are, to label it as just that. So yes, like you said, there are that alt-right people or there are those racists, but it's funny how like that alt-right and that alt-racist is now getting along with the alt-left that is vegan.
If you're a Flames fan, are you automatically anti-Edmonton? Maybe, I don't know.
that example. Yeah. You have to hate them if you're really a fan. I know a lot
Jasper
of.
Ave's nice, no?
I
White
know-
Ave's nice.
I know a lot of pot-smoking hippies, young and old, they're straight up anti-vaxxers. One is a nurse.
Let's
who- She's young. She's one of the young ones, and she's anti-vax. She has been since before COVID.
I think we should start using our own pronouns, like you talked about it. Let's stop saying the anti-vax, and we catch ourselves in it, right? Like that's the power of a $5 million marketing campaign.
So anti-vax can be pro my choice.
I was doing it on purpose though to prove that these are as left-wing of people as you're going to come across. Like they would be, pick anything that's left-wing in our society, like UBI and all of these things. Like they are very much for all those things. She is a nurse. She just doesn't believe in vaccines, period. Like, they have 2 young kids, probably 3 years old and 1 year old.
So they never got any of the basic vaccinations?
I think we need to qualify. I myself, I'm not anti-mask or anti-vaxxer,
Neither am I.
right?
Not at all.
But I'm definitely pro-business, and I'm definitely pro-discussion. I'm like,
Agreed.
Yes,
anytime people are not wanting to have a debate where all sides are clearly being presented, that's just shady, man. I don't know any other way to say it. Like,
You know what? If something is
let's have the debate. What's the harm?
In us, we have these discussions and we post them on social media and we open up our feelings and even me today, I'm like, am I going too far? Am I like, do people think I'm crazy? Like, because then you start thinking that, because even this shit that you read, these articles make you think, and it's just like, and like you said, pro discussion. Like, we need to have discussions, but like, we had a nurse here today that wanted to come on the show. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was a nurse here, but she's scared to lose her job, and she feels probably, I don't even know if she's.
If we were sophisticated and then you had to like edit her voice and face, she would have came on.
Like, she said she doesn't wear a mask at the supermarket. Like, in me, I wear a mask. I respect people. Like, I'm not saying she doesn't respect people, but her belief is like that, and she can't come on this show to lose her job. And when she first asked me, like, she's like, oh, your podcast, I should come on the show. And I'm like, sure. And I kind of like avoided it because I'm like, you know what? I don't want somebody to lose their job or their livelihood because of our 500 views, which is going to turn into 4 million. But anyways, so then I like kind of turned it away.
Not if C-10 has anything to say about it.
coming up.
And then she messaged me again. She's like, when can I come? And I'm like, you know what? This wine is good. She's like, I'm like, you can come on the podcast tomorrow. Come. And then she's like, oh, I put it on the spot, like, come. And then she messaged me. And there's other people I asked too, that I asked last minute or asked before. They say they want to come, but when it comes down to it, they're scared, right? I don't know if they're scared or they're busy, whatever. It is what it is. Everyone's trying to make money.
It's a combination of things.
So then she came and she's like, I want to hear you guys. And I could tell she was looking and she's like, oh, I want to talk. And she couldn't talk. But could you imagine if it's tough for that one person, and I get it. But if everybody said, I want to have a discussion, then the world would change. And that's why you talked about it when we first started talking about this. You're like, I don't know, I have, I'm this in my company, this and that. But you're like, it starts with us talking. Just like we say, it starts with you making your own bed at home. It starts with you as a human. Mm-hmm. If you worry about consumption of oil and gas, start with you consuming less. Mm-hmm. So it all starts with us. And maybe we're not going to change the world, but maybe, like, I had, like, you know how social media, I never get on discussions. Jason Kenney posted something about dictator oil and buy Alberta oil, and I'm like, you're a dictator, bro, the way you're acting. So I go on, and then this girl writes back, and then she comments, and then it's about, like, and then she says something, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, I don't want to get into details, but when I voted conservative, I got nothing to hide, but I'm attacking my own government. And she's like, wow, how could you vote conservative? This and that. And then we just started talking, and then other people attacked her. Like, it's social media. You're a social media warrior. And then I just said my points, why I feel this way. And then back and forth, we kept back and forth. And then all of a sudden she's like, wow, thank you. I've never had a discussion like that. Those are some good points. Thank you so much for respecting my views. But it's crazy because social media, it's not like that. It's either like, just like this article says, like, if you're a pro-business, because we're not going to say anti-lockdown.
I still think we hijacked pro-choice.
Last week on our podcast, I said that the Conservatives won the popular vote, and I was correct.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They did win the popular vote. Yeah. So, Bill C-19.
With Andrew Scheer, no less.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
The popular vote. So it makes you think. But now that we're getting into the popular vote, Bill C-19, look it up, my people. If you look it up, and there's probably going to be like the lawyer version, which is like 300 pages, right? I looked up that and I'm like, let's just dumb it down to like restaurant owner, right? So the Liberal government introduced Bill C-19 in December. Among other things, it would allow for a 3-day voting period, 3-day voting period, rather than the usual 1 day, make it easier for voters to obtain and cast in ballots. Okay, cast in ballots. It would also allow elections kind of more flexibility to conduct mobile polls in long-term care facilities. So, this is a post-millennial. Trudeau Liberals push bill that would allow mail-in ballots to be received 1 day after the election date. Mail-in ballots are used by Canadians working abroad. Mail-in ballots have been used often by Canadians working abroad or members of the military, which makes sense.
Sure.
In 2019 election, they saw 49,545 ballots received. 5 million ballots are being printed in preparation for the next election. If you can go to Costco, you can line up for your vaccine, you can line up and go vote in person. I'm sorry. Like, if you want integrity of an election, go in person and vote. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying that I'm not talking about American elections, but for integrity, for confidence, if you want people to say that you are the leader, you don't have mail-in ballots 24 hours the dead after. I go vote today, but mail-in ballots can arrive tomorrow. To me, I'm sorry to say, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, NDP, Bloc, Green. If you want integrity and you believe in democracy, just, like, why? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
If the postmark on your taxes is a day late, do you get a penalty?
Of course you do. If you on property tax,
Yeah.
go. Nenchi's gonna not Nenchi. Well, I gotta say Nenchi, but they're gonna charge you a percentage, and it's not if you're a day late or a week late, you pay the same.
Agreed. Yeah.
So
no, but
why?
my point
Like,
is,
if you know there's an election in a month, because even if they do a quick election,
Sure.
they're gonna give you a month,
that's plenty.
right? I'm sure. Is it a month they give you?
I think they give you more.
more than a month.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you have to submit it a day late?
The thing is,
Like, come on, man. It's just about integrity, and this is why, like, I'm sorry, man. It's too far now. It's getting too far where
I think
you can go to Costco, but you can't vote.
well, we're a country that sends people to oversee elections in countries that maybe don't have the same record of democracy and stuff like that. Like, we're considered a pretty high standard for elections here. Our system, although not perfect, isn't terrible. Why do we need to make these changes? Here's the thing. If we're going to make all these changes, so we're making changes so you can work from home, you can do Zoom calls, you can do everything remotely, we can do all these massive things in science in 9 months, 6 months, or whatever. Why can't we build a system where we can vote electronically and you don't even have to go anywhere?
There's that, and they're in what, second year, 4-year term?
Yeah.
Why have an election?
Yeah.
It's a pandemic. Why have an election?
Because you think
why,
you have a chance
Why
of
would we
winning.
change the law to have an election that's not necessary
Yes.
in the middle of a pandemic?
Here's why. To go back to the sky is falling, all these chickens, they see their opportunity. Things are going to come home to roost for them.
The only way you can call an election if he calls an election,
He can call an election anytime
or if
he
the
wants.
NDP disagrees with them.
Yeah, he'll drop the writ. We're going to end up in an election likely in 2021, right? Or early 2022.
Well, if they're passing, if they're trying to pass, if the Liberals are trying to pass.
If there's a non-confidence vote because the NDP doesn't vote with him, then
well, there's been where the NDP didn't agree with them on something. I
no,
forgot
but
what it was.
either.
But then they just said
no, but then the bloc did. So
Yeah.
he only needs the bloc or the NDP, either one of them, and they got a majority. So
So that part of it has never happened.
or they
It's-
walk away from a bill.
Or I was going to say, or they let it die. And
They let it die,
and they
right.
don't put it to
Yeah.
vote, and that's happened as well.
I think that's happened. Yes.
But I think they know they're in a position where they're going to win. So I think that's why they're going to call it.
But why do you need these rules to win? Why do you need
know, I know-
mail-in
I know-
ballots?
I
Are
know-
liberals that scared to go out and vote, but they're not scared to get
because
vaccinated?
I suspect like whoever their base is, however that lines up, it's a lot of people. If they've been, if they're falling victim to all the advertising about what you should be doing in this time,
do you get
they're
vaccinated?
not going to come out.
Do they come to your house and you get vaccinated, then you mail in your
Well, no.
your card?
Here's the thing. Though. No, I
They
get what
don't
you're
come to
saying.
your house to get vaccinated.
No,
You
That's
go line up.
actually no. That's a
And-
program though. I think that's happening.
No, but what? There is. Oh, I didn't know.
I think I heard that on
But
the
what
news
did you
today.
say? What did you say? Some people lined up for vaccination and they said there might have been an outbreak. Remember?
That was that was in Calgary. That was like
You know what? Here's the thing, though.
There's an outbreak in the line. Exactly. But that's the thing. Some people are, and we have to respect the legitimate fears some people have, right? Like you said, you're scared of death. So,
people.
Oh, I get that.
I mean, but okay, I spend a lot of time in the backcountry, and you know what people say to me every time? Aren't you scared of grizzlies? You know how many more people die in Deerfield Trail than grizzlies?
You just
Okay.
tell them your wife has short legs and she can't run fast.
Yeah, but
Clearly, I'm faster.
so you want to do mail-in ballots, but why do they have to be 24 hours after my ballot?
It makes no sense. I know.
Something doesn't make sense.
But why? But I mean,
But if we're gonna do mail-in,
essential only. Essential only.
Yes.
You're
So-
2 years in. You're 2 years in
Yeah.
to your right to govern. is it essential to have an election?
2 years would be October.
So that
right?
and this is okay. People, just so you know, right? I'm not anti-mask. I'm not anti-vaxxer. I just am about the debate personally. So if all the rhetoric is so heavy-handed that we got to shut down the entire economy, right? Hands down across the board. Well, except for the big store, which is interesting enough. But or even people can get on planes. Like there's all these little hypocrisies that exist in the system. How is an election? It's not, the 4-year term is not up. The term is not up. We're in the middle of the term. So why would we have to have an election in pandemic time?
Well, I do remember, I want to say it was about 8 or 9 months ago, and I don't remember the issue, but the Liberals were bringing a bill up, and the NDP were talking like they might not support it. And that was all the talk from the Liberals was, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we can't force this country into an election. Well, fast forward that 6, 8 months. Well, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. We're not allowed to go to a restaurant. We're not allowed to go visit our parents. We're not allowed to go do things.
The Trudeau Liberals are like a shitty relationship, right? Where it's like lose-lose. Like no matter what you say, you're on the wrong side of it, right?
Yeah. No, it's
Oh man.
But I think the reason they are going to call it is because I think they think this is their best chance to win. I think.
But even
because then they get 4 years from now.
A lot of
they're not halfway through.
Conspiracy, non-conspiracy, whatever you want to believe. But a lot of conservatives, they see it in the States. Conservatives, Republicans are like mail-in ballots are bad. It's not integrity. So if you like, to me, if I want to play a soccer, if I want to play sports, I don't want to win because I just won. What kind of feeling is that? I want to win because I deserve to win. So don't you want to have integrity? These politicians are that much pieces of shit.
Come on,
they don't
man.
even need integrity anymore.
Players
but could you imagine
if
if Trudeau actually was like a little more pro-Alberta, he could actually win a majority easily?
No, he couldn't because what he's selling is everything against us. That's how he sells it. Environment, all these. You know what? This is what.
But that's what scares me though, because his game, to me, would be so simple. Right? It'd be so simple in a way, like
on the radio or something, that he's up in arms about this Line 5 being closed.
Right.
Two reasons. One, about but is it because there's 5,000 jobs at stake in Ontario?
It's deeper than that.
No, but is that one of the talking points for it?
I'm sure. I mean, jobs in Ontario always mattered more than jobs in Alberta.
How many
always,
jobs were lost in
right?
Alberta because of pipelines?
But they don't care. We're out here. We're just environment killing,
but is that
money thirsty animals, right? We're savage out here, right? That's how exactly, and that's how they present us. So it's part of why I lend my voice to your podcast, Tom, because
I'm tired of it, man. I love Alberta.
I'm clearly not all the rhetoric of Alberta, you know.
Sure.
When you come in here, when you come in this restaurant, do you see the rhetoric of Alberta?
No, but I haven't seen.
I actually see when you come in this place. I see Alberta.
Well, see, I don't.
But
what is the rhetoric of Alberta?
Well, no, like just Hicktown, redneck, a bunch of redneck backcountry people, right? Like
you come in this place, you see so many different people.
Sure.
So many good people, so many hardworking people.
Western hospitality, it's a real thing.
And incredibly diverse.
Incredibly diverse and incredibly respective of the diversity.
Alberta comes in this restaurant.
I cook my pasta al dente.
That's a good way of saying it, yeah.
Alberta comes in this restaurant, but Alberta gets it. Like, this is why I started this with, I want to start this to show the world. Like, even if you're in Eastern Canada, that one person might be watching or whatever. Like, look at us, man. Just, like, it's not what you think, man. And maybe what we think down there, maybe we think that, oh my, like, I used to think that everyone in Montreal.
But we do it to ourselves. We do it to ourselves, though, because what's the 2 weeks in a calendar year that we promote the most about Calgary?
Christmas?
Stampede.
I know.
Right?
No, but there's what's the petroleum show every year in June, right?
Yeah, but the Global Petroleum, but even then.
No,
so,
the Stampede is
but think about it. Like, on the world stage, Global Petroleum Show, right? And then Stampede. And what's Stampede?
The Stampede's even bigger than the Global Petroleum.
Yeah, no, it's bigger, but like, but these are the things we showcase of ourselves, and like, clearly we know differently. Yeah. It's pretty beautiful, pretty vibrant.
We're also a very young province, and what is
super young?
We don't have old. We don't have the old city center in Montreal. We don't have
old. There's no old town. We were in a province till 1905, man.
Even when it comes,
we're new age.
Yeah. Even when it comes to COVID, like Jason Kenney will be like, well, in BC they did this, in Ontario they did this, in this they did this, in this. You know, like I remember when I used to play soccer, I used to be like, oh my god, that guy warms up like this.
Oh, I have to insert. Is that when you were pro?
No. But it's always about like you look at that guy like you want to be like them, and it's like even Alberta, like BC did this, but in the end. Why can't we just be like, fuck
Do
it,
you?
we're leaders. We're Alberta. Like, why
Listen.
does Calgary? Why does Calgary? Everyone's like, what's the identity of Calgary? Why can't Calgary be like, this is what we are? We are oil and gas. We have a beautiful inner core. We care about the environment. We're a diverse city. We have a great nightlife. We have a great food scene. I don't want to be like Toronto. Toronto's not Calgary.
Young,
I don't
vibrant.
want to be like Edmonton.
Yep.
We have a young population. Why can't Calgary be Calgary? And
can.
you have your own identity. Stop trying to be like everyone else. And when you're younger, it's like even you as a human.
I'll give
When
Nenshi
you're
his
younger-
props. Nenshi started his first couple terms kind of on that front, right? Like, if you look what happened to the skyline, the East Village. Like, we started to make some waves, and then it kind of
Agreed.
petered out,
Yeah.
right? But
so in the
we
end-
started to define ourselves, and then it got caught
in
up.
an odd way, we need to be more like Quebec. Quebec doesn't
Yeah.
care what people
Doesn't
Yeah.
care. So
You're right.
They
but-
do it their
You
way.
are right.
But when
And
you're
if you don't
younger,
like it, you can piss
when
off.
you're
You know,
younger-
the difference is Quebec has the power, though.
Agreed.
But,
Yeah. No.
but when you're younger, you're like, I want to be like my older cousin. I want to be like that older guy in high school. I want to be. But why can't you? But when you get to a certain point, you're like, I want to be me. If you're a good person, or you
Sure.
like, this is what Calgary needs to
But
be me.
we're embattled, right? Because fundamentally, Alberta is a resource farm for the East. Always has been, and to this day considered like
Where do we send our oil to be refined? And
you know, and so this Line 5 stuff. I mean,
So
you can't make it up.
are we going to become something a little more important if what's her name, Gretchen Wormer or whatever the
In Michigan, yeah,
if she gets
Oh,
it, if she gets this
Whitney,
line
Whitney,
shut down,
Whitney.
what?
We'll skip Bill C.
I got a quote for you guys. It's Scott Moe, Saskatchewan Premier.
Oh yeah.
He had this on his LinkedIn today. He's like, I don't even know where to start with this. Federal Liberal Minister Seamus O'Regan, right, is very concerned that if Line 5 is shut down, oil will have to be shipped to Eastern Canada by truck, rail, and ship, which will be messy, polluting, expensive, and unsafe. If only there was some other alternative manner of getting Western Canadian oil to Eastern Canada.
You can kind of smell the
Scott Moe, you're the man.
there, yeah.
But
But it's right though. You know
it's pretty funny, man.
It's so stupid. You even look. Vancouver is building a pipeline from the terminal to the airport,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that they
yeah,
don't have to truck
yeah.
jet fuel
Yeah.
because it's safer.
Again, people, like, do your research. Everybody's anti-pipeline,
You don't
anti-pipeline.
even have to do your research. Just turn on the TV right now. That's how bad it's getting.
You know
So
what?
like,
My buddy Perry though today, I called him. He called me. I called him back.
And there's, sorry, just to take it a step further, there's unrest in the Middle East right now.
Yeah.
Okay, pipelines affecting us on our own content, and hackers from Russia. All right, what do you think's about to happen to everybody? You want to go into winter with your green energy? Think about this really. All right, I mean the rhetoric sounds good.
Yeah, I hope
It's-
it's
You want to go into winter with green energy?
It's crazy.
Look what happened to Texas, and that's not Alberta or anywhere else in Canada for that matter.
And it wasn't even cold.
how pipelines are so important to us and what they mean to us. Global news. There was an article today. U.S. Gas stations report shortages as Colonial Pipeline shutdown continues. More than 1,000 gas stations in the U.S., the southeast U.S., reported running out of fuel. Government officials acted swiftly to waive safety and environment rules to speed delivery of fuel by truck, ship, and rail to motorists and airports, even as a sought to assure the public that they were no cause for alarm. The Colonial Pipeline is the biggest fuel pipeline in the U.S., delivering about 45% of what is consumed on the East Coast. Was hit on Friday with a cyber attack by hackers who locked up a computer systems and demand for ransom to release them. So isn't that crazy? Like, pipelines are important.
I was gonna say, I mean, if the green rhetoric was true, and oil is dead, then isn't that a good thing? Why are we not celebrating? Right?
Somebody-
Trudeau, why are you not celebrating? Like, get rid of Line 5. Isn't that working towards,
he's
reducing your carbon footprint? Wouldn't that help reduce the carbon footprint? You got your Paris Accord to live up to. Get rid of Line 5. What are you fighting for? Just asking. Part of the conversation, people.
It's going to get cold in the east.
Oh, this winter, if that
Winter is coming.
winter in Canada is cold. Worldwide winter, like, come on, what's a colder winter than Canada?
Well,
Maybe Eastern
You
Europe.
know what? I don't know
Is
where
it
the
that
quote came
cold?
from, but somebody
For
asked,
population, we rank
Somebody asked Elon Musk
Russia.
if he could wipe out oil tomorrow, would he do it? And he said no, it would destroy civilization.
He couldn't build rockets and electric cars without oil.
No, but he just said, he goes, it's impossible to shut it off tomorrow. Like, everything around us is made with it. Like,
So,
people don't understand.
All the people that are anti-pipelines realize when one pipeline, a major pipeline in the U.S., destroys their fuel system, destroys like now they're like literally waiting hours in line to get gas in Florida.
It's either North Carolina or West Virginia. 75% of their gas stations have no fuel.
And then now that it's funny how that all the stuff we talked about in the previous podcast about pipelines are like now coming true, which is I don't want this shit to come true though.
Nostradamus.
I don't want this shit to come true, but it has to get to that point for people to realize maybe you have to hit rock bottom to realize like
You have to hurt a little bit.
like even me in the restaurant industry realize when I can't function properly, I have to rock bottom to where I have to think more and get more angry. And we talked about like, so Canada could see 50% cut in fuel capacity if Line 5 pipeline is shut down. Experts are painting a grim, so I think this is a global. Experts are painting a grim picture of what Canada could face if Line 5 pipeline gets shut down, with some saying the country could see its fuel capacity get cut in half. So there's more to this, but I'll just kind of do the major points. Line 5 is facing a looming shutdown threat from Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who set on Wednesday deadline last November that owner Enbridge has said it has no plans to meet. If the line gets shut down, either before or after, a court-appointed mediator is set to meet with the two sides again on May 18th. Consumers would have no fuel, and by no fuel, I mean 66% of Quebec's oil would be cut off, 50% for Ontario. He added,
Karma's a bitch.
the pipeline provides a significant chunk of fuel that major Ontario airports use in their day-to-day operations. Like, this is fucked. But pipelines are bad. And then the guy in the article...
No, but this is the chance right now, for Eastern Canada especially, to put your money where your mouth is. If you're so anti-pipeline, then you lose the pipeline, and now you pay for the increased price in fuel that you shouldn't care about because you're reducing your carbon footprint.
Because you care, man.
Right?
You care so much.
Oh yeah, no. You know what? This is without us having to do it. This could be Ralph Klein saying, "Let's turn the taps off."
But what's crazy is...
Let them freeze, I believe was the phrase.
If the pipeline gets shut down, and now we got to move it by truck, by rail, but how are you moving it by truck? We talked about it last week. How are you moving it?
We're also screwed
With
here though,
energy.
because we don't refine our own fuel here. You know, we could use maybe some of this money that we're spending on advertising for COVID. We could be spending on, whining and dining somebody to build a refinery here.
We spend a lot of money, interestingly, in Alberta,
Yeah, we
Mr.
do.
Kenny.
Yeah,
A lot of interesting money.
Like $5 million on marketing to get
The
a
war
vaccine.
room budget is bigger than that.
Would it not be greener to refine fuel here,
Well, instead of passing it around everywhere.
shipping
moving
around
it,
the world?
shipping
Like,
it.
Well, the catch there is the cost of building the refinery.
oh, I
which
get that. No, that's what I'm saying. Though,
Nobody bought into.
But maybe
Ever.
that becomes a partnership with the government. Like, we spend so much money ridiculously. What would it cost to build a refinery? Are we talking like $20 billion?
I don't know.
Like, I'm assuming it's massive.
It's a big cost.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the size. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what we're trying to do?
You know what? We're spending COVID money right now. How much did the federal government spend? $400 billion?
How
So
many
then-
pages could your inkjet print?
And then so on. And still in this article, Mateague says fuel shortages would also impact the ability for trucks or trains to pick up the slack left behind by the pipeline, which carries, think about this, roughly 540,000 barrels of crude oil daily between Wisconsin and Ontario.
Well,
do the math at $60.
Here's
do
another
the
one.
math. $32 million a day.
Here's another little part to think about.
What the fuck?
If we start having
Chump change in a deficit world.
Well,
right?
but if you start having fuel shortages, you know what? That sucks. So people have to start riding their bikes to work or taking the bus.
This happened in the past, eh?
Yes, it did. Yeah. But here's the next thing, though. What happens when you start running out of fuel? You also run out of diesel. What do the trucks that take the food to your grocery store use? Like, how far down does this... Now, you know what? The problem's in the States right now, this Colonial line, it's going to be fixed. It'll be fixed. I'll bet you within a week they have it figured out. It's back
Well, you're
up
saying
and
this
running.
shit can supply.
But no, but line 5 though
can destroy the food chain too.
Well, it can.
That's what he's saying exactly. and, like,
How do we support industry if we can't? If fuel goes up, what you remember a few years ago when we had fuel surcharges on every invoice you got? It had a fuel surcharge. Like even the food supply companies were putting a fuel surcharge on your bill.
Yeah.
It was the new shop supplies for a lot of these companies. But what happens when there just isn't fuel? If Line 5 gets shut down, what percentage you say it provides for Quebec and Ontario? Like 40 or 50% of their fuel?
I think 50 or 60.
So if we take 50% of the diesel fuel out of Quebec and Ontario,
66% of Quebec's oil.
okay, so how do we get them diesel fuel for trucks so that they can bring food to the grocery stores? How do we have fuel for buses to run? At 66%.
Elon better hurry up with that electric truck, eh?
Well, is there a natural gas pipeline going that way? Because you're going to need that. Well, they have hydro in Quebec.
I have hydro.
Yeah.
But we don't.
No, we have natural gas though.
We don't have enough water in our system to make hydro.
It's just like
No, but my point is though is that what are they like? How is the green side? Like you were saying, this is what you guys wanted. You're getting it. Be careful what you wish
So
for.
if you're a vegan, for example, or you're whatever, if you're a vegan, God bless. If that's what you want to be, that's good. And if you think do you do it? Are you a vegan because you care about animals, or are you a vegan or you eat a certain way because you care about the environment? Because
No.
well, some people believe in the cow farts and all this stuff, right? If you go far down the line environmentally,
Sure.
like Bill Gates is pushing this agenda about.
He also
You know-
owns a lot of farmland.
Yeah. So if you live in Canada and minus 40 in the winter,
How are you gonna eat vegan?
how you gonna eat vegan? So if the fuel supply
Pine needles
is
don't break
destroyed,
down good.
where is the food coming from? And even if you have that greenhouse in Ontario or in Alberta, how are you heating it?
You're missing the opportunity. This is how we combat obesity.
That's funny, but it's sadistic because
Maybe
I
I
mean,
should become vegan.
I'm thinking
you know,
you know the toll: the rich are fat,
Yeah.
and the poor are skinny.
Oh yeah, that was when they developed sugar and it started to become the thing. That's when North Americans started getting really fat. Was processed food.
So in this article as well, it says you can move material by boat on the Great Lakes for about 9 months a year, and that would be the cheapest option. But I think this solution would actually be more risky than the pipeline they would be replacing
The pipeline
in
that's
terms of
never had a
environmental
problem
risk,
60
and it would be
years?
certainly more costly. Okay,
since the Leafs won the cup.
so
yeah.
this is the article. Now this is my own facts that I looked up because they're talking about moving it by boat, right?
Sure.
What's a boat? Remember when the Liberals had a bill that wanted to? So you can look it up. Where is Bill C-48, which aims to ban ships,
Right.
ships of oil from waters off the north of BC
You did
coast?
your homework, yeah.
So you are saying that pipelines are bad. Now this pipeline is canceled, and Trudeau is fighting for this pipeline because we need this pipeline, but pipelines are bad anywhere else. He bought a pipeline that he's not even using. And then you say we're going to do a bill where ships are banned from the north BC's coast, and now you have to ship oil. Which lakes are those? The Great Lakes, one of the Great Lakes.
Great Lakes, yeah.
You have to ship oil by boat, but boats are banned. So what are the difference between the boats there and there for the environment?
Well, the ones in the Great Lakes probably will be a bit smaller, so they'll need more of them.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing. I don't think they'll have the massive.
Well,
Right, but it's a smaller body of
Oh
water.
no, I know.
where Bill C-48 aims to ban ships that hold over 12,500 metric tons. So the bigger boats.
That's
bad.
not a big boat, though.
Okay.
I don't think. Like I don't like.
No,
I don't know, but it's just
what
saying
they're
those-
saying is that that's the threshold. Like
That's
that,
the threshold.
that
No,
and
I get
above
that.
is banned. Yeah.
And it's bigger than anything I'm gonna have.
Dan, are you okay there?
Yeah. No, I'm just.
Are you
checking.
talking to an ex-girlfriend?
No. You keep going. I'm just.
So I'm just gonna
Okay,
pretend
so,
you are, so I can.
you were talking about how it was 12,500 metric tons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the Ever Given that was stuck in the Suez Canal? That gigantic.
Yes.
It has a gross tonnage of 220,940 tons.
Oh, so the 12,500 is like a tugboat.
That's what I'm saying. Well, it's still a decent sized
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
Like these things are. That ship was longer than the Empire State Building is tall. Like, it's massive.
We do our research, but we do our research live as well.
Well, but what I'm saying though is that like 12.5 is not like when you look at these gigantic tanker ships that are.
So if I want to move oil with only 10,000 tons, I'm an animal.
Well, it's like you're kind of doing it with a wheelbarrow compared to.
What's wrong with the wheelbarrow, man? I'm Italian, bro. Don't be
I was just
racist.
gonna say.
I guarantee if you ask a lot of Italians what their favorite sexual position is, they'll be like,
The wheelbarrow.
yo, hey, bro, it's the fucking carriola, man. It's the wheelbarrow. Oh, man. Okay.
We could ask our audience what it is in Greek.
Hey, malacas. Malacas.
We're too loud?
No, how do you say wheelbarrow in Greek?
What is wheelbarrow first to begin with?
What is a wheelbarrow? Greeks don't even know what a wheelbarrow is?
Just say it's Italian.
A wheelbarrow is how you move cement, concrete. You know, with the 3 wheels?
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because in Greece, you guys don't work or what?
You went to a fancy school.
Oh, you went to private school.
They
huh?
don't teach you wheelbarrow.
We call it the Malacca wheelbarrow.
The Malacas wheelbarrow, that's what you call
It's
it.
called
So-
the help.
It's called the Italian, huh? That's the working hard. And you Greeks, and that's why
And back to the program.
I'm not going to delete this. So, Million.
Questo ragionamento.
Yeah, and now he's speaking Italian because he was from Eritrea. One time they spoke Italian, right? So he's kind of confused because where he came, it was an Italian colony at one point. Then he moved to Greece for a better life at 13 to go to English school because he suffered so much. He used to tell me.
Greeks a better life because I was paying a hard currency, FYI.
Oh, do you? I think you can. But you know,
Yeah,
what,
you can hear him.
You know what he told me once? He said that he used to walk uphill to school and uphill back home.
My dad was talking about
That's
how
a
he
true thing, though.
Where?
No, it is-
uphill
no, it
both
isn't.
ways.
If the school is in the valley,
take his wine
right,
away
or
from
the school's on one side, no, but think about it. There's a valley. It's kind of like living in Malin Heights.
Yes, I get it.
And your
yeah.
school's on the other side of Deerfoot.
Okay, so
It's uphill both ways. It's
but
no
it's also
bullshit.
downhill both ways.
Well, yeah, but you go uphill. I know this from hiking. Anytime you got to go like this, the return trip is uphill as much as the.
Now, why are you making Million look good? son?
It's a true thing, man.
You're gonna make a great old man someday.
Oh fuck! I'm already there.
My dad talking about walking to school and he could touch the telephone wires,
Hey,
the
Million.
power lines on the snow. Was
So what was the first English word you learned?
First English word?
Yeah. What was Alberta oil and gas?
Actually, you know what? The first thing I knew about Alberta when I was in Greece, it was Alberta, the city of champions, Edmonton. Edmonton Oilers, that was the
The
first
city of
thing I
champions. So why are you living in Calgary, son?
Because it's nicer here.
I live now in Edmonton.
You did live in Edmonton. You used to date a Russian girl, right?
Yes, I did.
It's like you're on. It's like this is an interview, but I don't know if you can hear
Her
him.
name is
You're the new Larry King.
So Million dated a Russian girl, coming from Africa. Well, coming from Greece.
Good on you, Million.
Oh my God. Are you putting that shit on?
Yeah, this
Yes,
is live.
You're
bro.
live.
Okay, well, okay.
Okay, so Bill C-10. We talked about this last week. Now we're gonna get it. We're gonna talk about it right now. And there's an article in the National Post by Jamil Giovanni. It almost sounds Italian, but it's with a J, so it can't be Italian because Giovanni is with a G-I-O.
Wonderful pizza place in Renfrew years ago.
Oh, years ago, yeah, the Migliarese family,
Oh,
Uncle
yeah.
Angelo, yeah. We talked about that
We
before.
keep coming back to them, yeah.
So it says how Trudeau's censorious agenda could target Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, huh? He's so it's crazy. The most popular podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan, is loved by Canadians. Pretty soon it's going to be After Hours YYC, but at the moment it's Joe Rogan.
Patience. Give him
We,
a moment.
we listen to his show, The Joe Rogan Experience, in big numbers, and there's a buzz every time he talks about our country. Rogan loves us too. He once told his millions of fans that Canada is one of the greatest countries in the world he has ever known. But Rogan, American, popular and controversial, creates exactly the kind of content that Justin Trudeau's censorship agenda is designed to target. On face value, the Trudeau Liberal plan to censor the internet is being spun as an honest effort to regulate big tech. If that were the case, I'd be cheering them on, according to this guy. I'd be calling for the regulation of big tech for months, especially after Facebook and Twitter censored the New York Post with the Hunter Biden stuff.
Yep.
But the Trudeau Liberals are not interested in regulating big tech. They want to regulate you and me. Their plan is to control what we can say on social media platforms and what information we have access to on streaming services. Canada's Heritage Minister, which we last week said he was a criminal in the past, Stephen Gobet, has not been shy about admitting he wants to regulate what we say on social media. Bill C-10 is just the first step and would mean the government approved content would be privileged over the videos, podcasts, and posts that we actually want to see. Gilbert has justified his desire to censor social media users by citing a duty to protect Canadians from online harms. So when Gilbert was pressed by Lethbridge MP, do you see the Lethbridge MP? You see those videos?
Yeah.
Rachel Harder, to answer questions about the constitutionality of Bill C-10, Gilbert responded by trying to distract the Canadian people with an irrelevant debate about abortion. Given the opportunity, Gilbert said Harder would not hesitate one moment to remove a woman's right to choose, a right protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but would like us and Canadians to believe she cares deeply about the Charter. So why is he bringing up abortion when we're talking about...
Misdirection.
It's misdirection. It's always about, right?
No. Do you remember we talked a few weeks ago about how Trudeau was so envious of the Chinese because their system of government allowed them to get things done?
That's not a bullshit statement. You can look it up. He actually said this.
He really did.
In front of a group of women.
In front of a group, yeah.
People kind. But the
I
trick
never
for this
said mankind, I said women. You're allowed to say women, you're just not allowed to say
No,
man.
I don't know if you are or not. But the trick is, though, when does this go from being a culture minister to being kind of a propaganda minister? Like, whoever's in charge gets to write what we can see, what we can say, what we can do. And this goes back, you were talking earlier, Nigel, about, you very much dislike the flags that were being flown, but you appreciate the right to expression on your own property. And that they're going to take that away. That is what this is about. And there was an MP that was talking today, and he said, I have twice as many followers as the Prime Minister, and I have way more views. Am I big enough to be censored? Like
Pierre.
Yeah.
Pierre.
So where does it change? Like,
But think about it. What did you say? Pierre Poilievre has more subscribers
than
on YouTube, and he is not even the leader of the Conservative Party because he got pushed. He actually keeps getting demoted.
He's getting demoted.
And he has more.
Tell me that's not questionable.
That's not questionable. He has more subscribers
What are we living
on
in?
YouTube than the Prime Minister.
That's questionable from his own team. That's
Yes,
not
100%.
That's his own
Speaks-
team.
I mean,
but then if we're from the
tinfoil
outside,
hat on, but it speaks to the big
why?
mix.
But why is his own? If he has the most subscribers, more than the Prime Minister, why is he getting demoted in his own party?
You gotta. It's kind of why bridesmaid dresses are ugly.
Well, it's not only that though. You can make
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's exactly that.
That makes sense.
it
Because that one bridesmaid might be way hotter than the bride.
But you gotta make the bride
Yeah,
look
you
good.
gotta
In
make
this
the bride
case,
look
you
good.
gotta
Yes,
gotta make a guy named O'Toole not look like a tool. Have fun with that.
No,
I know,
But-
it's true.
But we always say the victors write the history. If this goes through and they decide what can or cannot be on, do we say things that are controversial on here? Like, we're talking about free
we're
speech.
toast, yeah.
No, but we're talking about people having really decent conversations and discussing things.
Like we like the Joe Rogan show. People
Sure,
like it.
I like
but
it.
I think he might be a little like we kind of hold. I don't know if we hold back or not. I don't know if we're the same.
You know what? I think that maybe we.
If we had millions of followers and it was our job, I think we would give.
But I
You
think
know
that
what?
We
Yeah.
would give our true after hours.
We're the difference. You know what? I say pretty much what I'm thinking. Like, I don't have something that constrains me, and I'm okay that way.
Yeah.
But I think that just in general, you don't want to hurt somebody. You were saying you don't want to risk somebody's job. You don't want to hurt somebody's.
But in the end,
feelings.
if I had,
But hurting feelings is
You know
not
what,
really.
bro, if we had a camera crew, dude, it's our camera. That's why it cuts out sometimes. We gotta
Sure,
put images.
sure.
But if we had a camera crew, a marketing team,
Yeah.
all this shit, we would have. I know our podcast is great. I'm not putting us on a pedestal, but
Sure.
we would have a bunch of views, and then I honestly think that the way we talk, because a lot of people don't talk like we do, we could have a big following.
I suspect that the following will show up after the fact, like
Sure.
as time progresses, because even the most ardent of good people, rule followers, will really have had enough at some point next
But,
year.
but
Agreed.
like,
Right?
if we start getting more followers and we start getting liked, and it gets to that point where now we're censored.
Well,
Well, what's that guy you were talking? Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No,
that's all right.
But what's that guy that was in Calgary? Like, he's got a big
this
following.
guy.
the guy who was he had something to do with Alex Jones. It wasn't Alex Jones.
He's
but
kind of a young guy. He's all bearded.
But he was on Alex Jones, but then he got cut out when he's Chris Guy.
Yeah, Chris something.
guy.
Yeah, I don't remember. his
It's
name.
Chris Guy. Yeah, he's from the guy that did all the freedom rallies.
Okay.
But he's banned on.
He got put on a
Cannot
no-fly list.
fly. He's
Yeah.
on a no-fly list.
Yeah.
He's not a terrorist.
Right.
He's just a vocal person against COVID.
So like that's effectively what would happen to us if we had any kind of real following, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
think Joe.
scary.
I think Joe Rogan is in an enviable position that.
He's too. It's
I-
about money now.
Well, no, but I think what he's saying is what he believes. Like, I think he just goes on and says
Yeah,
what
he can say
thinks.
his thing. Yeah.
But I think that a lot of what he has to say is controversial, and I think it's just all of the pieces coming together in the perfect.
But you know what? I had now that you talk like this, so I have, sorry to interrupt, but I had a principal and a psychologist come in here, and they came in here like 2 months ago when it was
This sounds like the worst joke ever.
but it was during when you're allowed to dine in, and we were talking, and then like, yeah, the world's messed up right now. Like, I was scared about another lockdown.
Sure.
This is when all the Joey shit happened. I'm like, oh. And then we got in the conversation. Like, we live in Eau Claire. We go to Joey's. I'm like, oh man, the lawsuit's horrible. They're like, it's disgusting. I feel so bad. And then they start talking about like this COVID stuff. And then I say to them like, we have a podcast here. And I'm like, and they're like, oh my god, what's your podcast? And I'm like, oh my god, these guys are like, they're on the other side of the spectrum or whatever.
Let's go.
I want to tell them, but I don't want to tell them because they really like my restaurant, so I don't want them to think.
You're
I'm like,
scared of
listen,
it, yeah.
I'm like, because even me, I think that way. I'm like, I have to stop where I want to talk because I have a business. So I'm like, yeah, okay, so we have this podcast, but I don't know if you guys, you guys are really nice people. My views might be a little too far for you guys. You're a teacher, you're a psychologist, I think a children's psychologist.
Women, men, couple.
And then I'm just like, yo, and then I'm like, I said that, they're like, okay, well, we always watch Joe Rogan. I'm like, okay, fuck, you're getting my podcast. Like, seriously, here's my podcast, right? Like,
You know what though? The funny thing, that's what most people don't understand. Like, everyone talks about how he's crazy and he's.
well, people love it.
No, but he's
a
as
real
left.
take.
But he's as left as they come. Like,
But the catch is like there's no real thing as the left and the right because my values are so split. It's down. I'm a centrist.
Yeah.
We talked about that once upon a time in the past. Like I'm not left or right. I'm not identifying fully with either party. Right? There's no way actually. It's an impossible thing.
I agree. Yeah.
And I really believe the vast majority of us. Remember we talked about like there's no black and white in attitudes or in mentalities. Like the value, it's gray. It's humanity's gray. It's in the middle. So. That's and we kind of start to see that, right? Like it doesn't matter your
So
age.
I think we always talk about this. You're right. So maybe we need to start a party called the CS Party. You know what the CS
Common
Party?
sense.
The Common Sense Party.
Yeah, but that's
Good luck with that.
common sense.
It's in short
That's-
supply. You'll have
that's
very few
loaded.
members. Yeah.
That's pretty
Oh
loaded,
my
man.
God, but like we live in the most educated society in history. Everyone's educated.
No.
I got this degree. I got 4 degrees. I got 3 degrees. And like it's like, but you don't have common
You
sense.
know what though? But I think people blindly watch things. Like I had a friend here with me one night that you were talking about. You know, I really like you, even though you're a liberal. You're a good person. Do you remember?
It's
her?
a weird take, right?
No, but her and I were talking about in the States. We were talking about how Georgia's having their election issues about having, and one of the
You have
things
to have
is
an ID.
you have to have ID to vote. And she goes, they want you to not have ID. And I said, yeah, and she couldn't believe it. And it's people just listen to the news and they just take it, and it's what it is. It's like us listening to music on the radio. You just are listening to it. It's a station that you like the sound of, so you just keep listening to it, and you don't go looking for something else. I listen to, you know what? If you go out right now, mine could be on CBC, it could be on CHQR, it could be on 90.3 could be anywhere. It doesn't matter. Like I'll listen to
But
everything.
you're eclectic. I mean,
No,
and
and
Yeah, but you aren't you
that's a
tired of listening
great
to
way
the
to be.
mainstream media with this COVID shit?
But
No,
you
I like
gotta,
listening to it all.
you can't. I would say I personally can't turn it on all the time because it gets my.
Agreed.
It gets me all hot.
There's
but
some I listen to more than others.
you, but you have to. You got to listen to all the views, right?
You do.
Like I listen to the politicians. I really want to hear what Kenny has to say, what Hinch has to say, what Trudeau has to say, like for myself, so I can form my own opinion, my
You can
own
think.
informed opinion. I don't want to read what and
But it's hard to listen to Trudeau. I'm not gonna lie, man.
yeah, but it's hard to also be locked down. Like everything's
Yeah.
hard. This is a shitty time, and I mean, we're grown men, we're grown ass men. So I mean, we're grown ass people. It's not just men, women too. But like adults are adults. Like you can challenge yourself.
Adults.
You can deal with things that are a little bit harder. Like
yeah.
it's very important to be informed, to be aware. If everything you take is secondhand, which is what the media gives you, they regurgitated what happened in the day's news. It's really important
But it
to have
doesn't
your
matter,
own
like-
perspective.
What like now the way we even like I don't want to see Trudeau. I don't want like I look at it, but I'm like I don't want to. These
Yeah, but-
politicians just drive me nuts.
Ah.
I don't want to look at either
It's
side.
like I
man.
was saying earlier.
Don't,
my
don't
buddy,
watch the evening news every day.
My buddy Perry, I talked to him and he goes, he is all right. He goes, I watched the news today. He goes, I shouldn't have done it. He hasn't
Yeah.
watched the news forever.
Exactly.
And it, you know, even whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, there's no good news.
So in this article, because Bill C-10, it says the views and opinions expressed on the Joe Rogan Experience could also easily fall into the government's definition of online harms. Canadians must worry if online hate speech might include simply disagreeing with our Prime Minister on sensitive social issues. Don't you think the Liberals would love to ensure fewer Canadians hear a conversation like the one Rogan had with Toronto celebrity chef Maddie Matheson on
that
April
one was-
28th?
It was great. I watched part of that.
But maybe they want to cut out because it says during the episode on his podcast, Rogan described Canada as a lockdown. So locked down, confessed, I don't understand why they think that's good, and lamented that the Canadians are over policed during the pandemic. That it's like we have a Gestapo.
Yep.
The Prime
That's
Minister
enough right
is
there.
engaged in a power grab of epic proportions. We shouldn't give up that easily.
Here's the thing, though. Nigel was saying you have to listen to both sides. This is why.
you get
Imagine if everybody listened to both sides, because all the people that think that that's right and that we should, you know what? The word Gestapo was in there, so it should be cut.
Right.
So there's no frame, like they're picking and choosing, they're clipping, they're
Well, because
cutting.
it said the word Gestapo, now it's extreme right wing.
Right.
Right, just
Yeah.
like the other
Now
one.
you're the guy.
How is that freedom of speech? Like how?
It's not. No,
how
this
could
is
you
my
even
point, though.
censor? Like you're not even trying to insult. I understand like hate speech is hate speech, and it's a slippery slope. But hate speech is hate speech, right?
Sure.
Like you don't want like a.
And you know it when you
don't-
see it.
Well, but even then, if you're some random dude not representing anything, like just like public property, that to me is like, or not, sorry, I keep saying public, private property. If you're just representing your own personal Facebook, you want to run your mouth, that should not be illegal. It's in poor taste. It should not be illegal.
And
Right?
I think it'll get meted out by itself. I think
All right, we're gonna fly.
Yes.
Oh,
We're good.
Well done.
Yo,
Great.
remember,
know
just
what?
do your own research. Love life.
That's it. You know what? Listen to both sides and talk to people on both sides. It's not about winning. It's about knowing more.
But remember,
Yeah, you're not so smart that you know everything. Listen to two sides. It's not,
I know
it's not gonna hurt
shit.
you.
but
Listen.
like, call your friends, check on them right now because
Yeah,
people
that's
are
a hard time.
People are in
That's
hard
the
times.
most important.
You could be making money, a lot of money, but working from your home, but you don't see friends and you're paranoid and you got mental health issues. You could be losing everything you worked for and have mental health issues. You could be a young kid that doesn't see his friends, doesn't play sports.
Well, and they might not even look like it. Like that's the big.
That's the thing,
like,
right? Yes. So
sometimes
like
it's the people
honestly,
they're not worried about. So
just call your
don't be afraid
friends,
to ask.
message your friends, check on them, whatever it takes, man. If you actually believe that we are in this together, like after I posted that video today, and I was like, "Oh, we're in this together." I was being sarcastic, but if you actually believe we're in this together, check on your friends, check on your people. Just do it, man. It doesn't hurt to make a phone call.
Just be human. Like talk
Just
to
be
people.
human.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
And remember, you're going to do that personally because the government will not do it for you. So remember, the government can't tell you to be a good person. You be the good person.
Can't legislate goodness. Yeah.
You can't legislate that, man. It's true. If you believe in the Bible or you don't, the Bible says you need to be a good person, not the government tells you to be a good person. If you believe in spirituality, then just, like, I don't know, just you do it, man. Like, take care of other people.
Do the right thing. Yeah.
But yeah,
Be good.
be good.
That's it.
Be good, old man.
Calgarian, welcome to the West. We weren't supposed to make it, but we made it, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West. Safe to say it's my favorite, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West. Trying to get paid quick and stay rich, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah. Welcome to the West. We weren't supposed to make it, but we made it, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West. Safe to say it's my favorite, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West. Trying to get paid quick and stay rich, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah, yeah. Welcome to the West, yeah. The illest shit you ever heard of coming out of Alberta, sounding like a burner committing murder. Ah, damn it, I guess I'm the bandit. The way I'm causing the panic, the madness that I establish. I put my city on the atlas. I know cold killers, colder than the Bow River in a cold winter. Go figure, the young scholar is dope, nigga. There's no bigger, no, you